Hello, I'm Colin Green, and you are listening to Spike Pit, episode 122. Hey ho, let's go! It's another punk-style Spike Pit podcast. The lurgies have left me, the fever dreams have abated, and I'm back to chatting about 5e. We've had a good number of call-ins. I'm going to address a few of them today. People from the Anchorite community talking about their experiences of playing and running 5e. I find it a fascinating topic and one that I am likely to continue for a good number of episodes. Let's get to our first caller.
What's up, Colin? It's Froth. I wanted to let you know I was listening to your episode talking about 5e and enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of wisdom in what you were saying about introducing the different races into your game and having to make a place for them in your world. Like they've got like this one, like it's not a chicken, but you're like a bird, Aarakocra. And so you'd have to like have like these bird people walking around and stuff. So I don't know if that fits everybody's game. Ends up a little bit like the cantina scene in Star Wars, I think. But anyway, I like 5e2. I thought they did a good job on the DMG. My main issue running it was once it got up to something like between like 7th and 9th levels, it started getting more and more complex because all the different players have so many options, and it's gotten to that analysis paralysis thing you get with the 3rd and 4th edition. But I still like it quite a bit. And hey, see you next time. Running out of time.
Hey, Froth, mate. I had not considered that, but you've put quite an interesting little picture in my head with all these different wacky races hanging out in the standard issue tavern that you find in your fantasy adventure game. You've got all these bird men and dragon men and devil men. It would be like the cantina, man. I'll have to bear that in mind. Maybe it would be quite fun to do a cantina style tavern and get some of the Sly Snootles and the Rebo band doing the soundtrack. Anyways, 5e higher level play. I think the characters in my 5e game are sort of levels 5 and 6. So perhaps we're only just dipping a toe into the mid-level play, the mid-tier. So yeah, I've heard quite a bit about it all getting out of control. My hope is that I just gain enough knowledge through building up through the various levels that by the time they get to the higher levels, everybody's learnt their stuff and knows what they're doing. I reckon it would be really, really tricky if you'd never played a high level character and you did the thing where you like just create a level 10 or level 12 or whatever character and just kind of like jump in at that point. I reckon that would be super hard and I would definitely steer away from that. But thanks for calling in, Froth, man, and good job on your podcast. I really look forward to those 40 hump day blogoramas.
Hey, Colin, it's Joe. Another great show, man. I love your stuff. I love listening to you and what you got to say because you always have something interesting to say. So we played 5e for the first year or so when it came out, and we had fun enough with it, but then we just got kind of bored. I don't know, man. I just think the skill system is just super lame in 5e. It's just so, I just don't like it. And, you know, it's a fine game and people can play and like what they want, and I got no problems with that whatsoever, but just for us, it's not for us. But, you know, it's obviously super popular, and so there are plenty of people out there who are enjoying it, and that's totally cool with me. So have a good one, man, and I hope you feel better soon.
Joe Richter, thanks for calling in, mate. Yeah, I'm quite intrigued by your call-in. If I'm honest, I could do with a little bit more info. You played it for a year or more, which is quite a while, so you've obviously given it a good crack at the whip. But when you say you're bored, I'm intrigued. I just feel like I want a bit more information. What is it that led to your boredom, perhaps? And what sort of adventures were you doing, maybe? And yeah, I'm just really intrigued, because for me and our guys, there's so much in the system. I'm just really, really curious as to what you found boring. And don't get me wrong, I'm not disagreeing with you. You know, if you say you're bored, mate, that's good enough for me. You was bored, but I'd really love some more detail. And likewise with the skill system, you say it was lame. I'm just wondering if you mean by, like, you prefer the sort of like older style of rolling under your abilities, and you don't like the gradation that you get with a skill system, or you don't like the kind of crunchiness, or yeah, I'm just intrigued, and I'd really like you to expound a little bit on what you said. And perhaps I could kind of come up with a little bit of a better response for you. But man, you know, thanks for your kind words, and yeah, I am feeling a bit better. So I appreciate your best wishes, and man, thanks for calling in. Yeah.
Just wanted to call in and put my two penneth about 5e. I like 5e. I think it's brought me back into role playing, so any game that's done that is good for me. I think it's got some good points. I think actually having all the different character classes and the way that they change at level 3 to give a little bit more path to your character, I think is a good thing. I think sometimes there's too many abilities and too many things to remember and too many sort of things you can do once a day, etc. But other times I think that those are good things and actually bring role playing to characters that are struggling a little bit to play their character. So I think there's definitely some good points. Okay, doing a Jackson. So part 2, I think some of the bad things about 5e is, although it's readily available now, I think it is quite expensive to people that are getting into the hobby or new to the hobby. I think there's plenty of good free games out there and low cost games. I think they're probably easier to get into, less rules, less complicated for people that are completely new to role playing. But I think with the right GM or DM, then I think any game can be introduced correctly. But there are too many abilities sometimes, too many or strange skill checks, where some of the simpler systems get away with a lot of that or do away with a lot of that. So I think it's good and bad points. I'm interested to see what everyone else thinks. Thanks.
So thanks for calling in, Arfed, with your thoughts about 5e. Currently we're playing Basic Fantasy and Arfed is playing a cleric called Lauren. It sounds like he may have been getting into the method acting and called us from the local church or cathedral, judging by the reverb that we've got on that calling. It's either that or he's sat on the throne calling in from his bathroom. Anyway, we won't dwell on that. Yeah, Diz, I'm glad you like 5e. It's just as well, because I think that's what we're going to be playing a fair bit of into the future, along with maybe some Black Hack when it comes round to my DMing time. Basic Fantasy, I'm drawing some early conclusions now, 7 sessions in. It's a little bit lackluster for me, if I'm honest. Maybe it's just me, and I could tinker with it and get it running quite, I reckon. But my experiment and exploration, along with Jason Hobbs, kind of between us, I think there's almost an unwritten rule that we're trying to play the system as close to rules as written as we can. So, yeah, in the last session of the game played last night, the business of thief abilities came up, and that's a constant stumbling block for me. I find the whole sort of fairly inept thief scenario as quite irritating. So, yeah. Anyway, I digress. Getting back to my reply for Arfed there. Yeah, there is a bit of a learning curve, but I don't think it's anything that players shouldn't be able to handle. Admittedly, there are easier systems, but at the same time, from playing, it's the likes of Arfed and the other players that seem to like the options, the player options, the like you mentioned, at third level you get quite a good boost. At fifth level you get another boost, I believe. The main one at third level is kind of choosing your path of direction for the character. It's like a pivotal time in terms of 5e, where perhaps up to that point you're maybe still a little bit of an initiate in your chosen class, and then there's this sort of parting of the ways, and for the rogue type you really kind of start to specialise in where your strengths lie, and I think the cleric chooses his domain. I'm not sure about the fighter. I'd have to look again. Anyway, the other thing, I think I've been a little bit negligent in my duties. Whilst it is quite expensive, if you go out and buy, say, the players, the DMG, and the monster manual, and you buy the 3 core books, Arfed, man, you can get the rules, the basic rules, for nothing on the WotC website, and the starter set is about 15 quid on Amazon, and that really does give you a good introduction to the game. The complexity is a separate issue, but I wouldn't say that cost is prohibitive. But yeah, if you wanted to buy all the core books, I can totally see where you're going with that. But yep, thanks for calling in, Arfed, and funnily enough, I think there's a fair chance I'll run into you soon.
Hi, Colin. It's Joe. Just wanted to give you a call back, a little bit belated, about your mention of board games a few episodes back. I'm also a fan of GMT, and particularly their Commands and Colors line, which is excellent. I don't know if you've played it, but I definitely recommend it. I also have Sekigahara, and I haven't played it yet either. So it's something I'm kind of looking forward to. But I also wanted to ask if you had ever used or heard of the Vassal engine, which is a free download Java runtime system that allows you to play board games on your desktop, both solitaire and online. Certainly worth a look. They have a ton of games available. It's vassal.org, I believe. But yeah, take a look at it. Let me know what you think. I will talk to you later. Cheers.
Interesting you mention board games. Mr. Joe Salvador, the man behind Raven God Games. I was just talking the other night with Arfed. He did a call-in last episode about Dead of Winter, and seemingly I screwed that up a little bit. So he's got more to say, and we're going to have a bit of a to and fro. The anchor-style table tennis, talking about Dead of Winter and how it is potentially relevant to your RPG. In the meantime, Joe was talking about commands and colours. That has got to be one of the systems, let me just think, if not the system that I've spent the most cash on over the years. I've got most of the various incarnations of Richard Borg's Command and Colours design, and man, I love it. For those of you that might not know too much about this, it's a kind of hex and now I've shot myself in the foot there, because it's a block war game, but it's also, in some variants, it kind of uses miniatures. There's a Battle Law uses miniatures. Memoir 44 from Days of Wonder uses lots and lots of miniatures. There's loads of expansions, loads of cards, various different boards and variants for the game. That's the one I've probably spent the most money on. And then the GMT version is like Ancient Warfare and Napoleonic. So it's Commands and Colours Ancients and Commands and Colours Napoleonics. And the GMT version is the one that uses these rather nice little wooden blocks with pictures of your troops on numerous stickers that you spend hours sticking onto the blocks. But it's awesome fun. It's a very simple system, but you can blow a few quid messing with that game. But like I say, hours of fun. And Joe mentioned the Vassal engine, which is a way that you can play the game online. There are various versions of Commands and Colours that are available as apps. The one that springs to mind for me is Battle Law. And there's a Memoir 44, which is the World War II. There's an app for that. But the Vassal engine, I've heard of, Joe, but I am, as of yet, I haven't had a chance to play it. And I don't get on the computer that often, so it seems unlikely that I'll ever play that. If I'm getting on the computer to game, I'm trying to do some online tabletop RPGs, the likes of Kalmata or my Ash game with Kevin at a Dungeon Muser. And this weekend, I'm actually playing a game of One Ring with Arlen, who's a player in our Ash game. After we finish in Hyperborea, we're headed off to Tolkien's Middle-earth, and I am going to be playing an elf, no less. And it has been a long, long time since I was an elf. When I started D&D BX back in the day, my first ever character was an elf. So that's going to take me back a little bit. Hopefully I'll do a little bit of a better job playing this one in my game on Saturday. But yeah, I was, 6 or 7 when I played my last elf, I think. I think that's right.
Hey Colin, it's Matt. Just want to comment on your discussion about talking to other people, after the game like you did with Vance. I just started gaming with Vance and Shane, both really great guys. And one of the things that I've found is that we tend to, after the game, sit around and chat. And I think you're right. It's really good to bounce ideas off of people, and it's a great thing to, I think we all chat during the day on Discord or Hangouts or MeWe or whatever we're using to chat. But that real face-to-face, albeit over video, interaction really is a good thing. And, I thoroughly enjoy them and I encourage them. I love them. We're just we're not talking about game necessarily. We're just talking about life. And I think that's good. And Pulling a Jackson, eh? So I don't remember who said it, but somebody was talking, and it might have been in one of these chats, where they were saying that men today don't have the opportunity to talk man stuff anymore. And I think they're kind of right. In today's world, you know, what traditionally was held as men's and women's, with the lines have really blurred. And I happened to go to a movie this weekend, which was Shazam. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Afterwards, the guy I went to the movie with, we ended up going to a pizza place, having some beer. We ran into a friend of his. And so all three of us just sat there for 2 hours and talked guy stuff. And I was like, man, it's been years since I've done this. And I don't know how it is, you know, in other locations or even other places in America, but I don't think guys do that as much as we used to. So I think it's a good thing that we do that.
Mr. Jackson of Matt Random Podcast. Yep, it's good to talk. And I believe the conversation you were referring to was one we had briefly at the beginning of the session we played last week. We were just chatting about what various players had been up to, and I think you mentioned then that you'd been out with your buddy, and I raised the subject then about this kind of idea that guys get to a certain age, I think, and have family commitments, and you know, just maybe drift out of contact with their old buddies, and perhaps, you know, basically just don't get out enough. And it was that conversation that I had with you guys that then led to me, well, following Vance's message and just the sort of like the whole vibe that I had going on in my mind from the chat and the game and what you said. That was really what led to the episode. So it's interesting that it's gone full circle and you've called in and forgotten who you'd had the conversation with, and I think it was actually myself. So, another thing that happens at this sort of age, man, the old memory gets a little bit clouded and dysfunctional. Anyway, well, so I just had a coughing fit there, and I think I've recovered. Cheers, Matt, and look forward to gaming with you again soon. Great times.
Hey, Spikepit, it's Wiz. Congratulations on your Patreon. That is very cool. It is. You got to do it, right? You got to get your stuff out there, and I'm glad you told me about it. Congratulations, and here's to lots of fun with your Patreon. Whisk out.
Hey, happy Wiz. Thanks for calling in. It's you, Ivy, and Tim Shorts, really, over at Gothridge Manor that got me into this idea of Patreon. You got me thinking about it. I thought it sounded like a really interesting adventure. Something I'd never done before, something I was a little bit shaky about, but ultimately I'm having great fun doing it. On the subject of Patreon, I'd like to get a shout out to my patrons: Jeremy Collier, Frank Turfler, Jason Hobbs, Che Webster, Ray Otis, Arfed, Carl Birch, Logan Howard, Tim Shorts, Joe Salvador and Matt Jackson. Thanks for your support, guys. I'm calling you the Pit Crew because you keep me going and you keep Spike Pit growing. I hope I can deliver on my promises, which is the regular podcast, and I'm trying to put some of my creative content up on Patreon as it comes along. I've got some maps up there, my sort of a mind map NPC, little, what do you call them, index cards. And then if I have some ideas and thoughts, I'm going to try and put them up as text, like text posts, you know, just like written posts, the sort of thing you might find on a blog. And, you know, I invite any feedback, and I want to get this sort of like to-in and fro-in, backwards and forwards conversation going. I've got some comments, I've got some messages going with the patrons, and you know, I think it's really positive. And man, you know, I thank you guys for your support. That's that for today, folks. I've got a number of messages prepped, ready for another episode. That's going to follow on probably Friday. Got a busy day tomorrow, but hopefully pull that together on Friday. I'm keeping the theme of 5e going, but you know, if you want to call in about anything else you've heard, definitely I urge you to do that. It's the lifeblood of Spike Pit, is the kind of the anchorite or the listener's response to the episodes. If I didn't have that, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I probably would just knock it on the head and give the whole podcasting thing a bit of a miss, really. So if you want shot of me, just don't bother calling in, and that might sort it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Take care, and I'll catch you later.